they're whispering because they're in an area of South Dakota that voted for Trump by roughly 70%. So any kind of dissent against dear leader must be done in a hush-hush manner, okay? You never know where the prying eyes are. You never know who might overhear this conversation. They're like, oh yeah, I didn't vote for him. I'm so sorry.
All right, we're going to begin this morning with a blunt new warning from Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, who says President Trump's trade war will hurt the U.S. economy with higher inflation and slower growth. As Powell spoke yesterday, markets dropped with all three major stock indexes losing ground. Nancy Cordes is at the White House. Nancy, good morning. So let's talk about what prompted the Fed chair to speak out.
Well, Vlad, typically when the economy slows down, as he's predicting...
I'm shocked that this will happen. Who could have foreseen this except for every single person that understands what tariffs look like? He's live again. This man is unstoppable, dude. He's signing another executive order. Oh, God, Lutnick is here.
It's so interesting.
Oh, boy. Can't wait to hear what...
Massive areas of water. And
can't wait to hear what this looks like, what this is about.
No, they sneak in, they poach.
He loves his little props.
But they fish in their own zones, so we're systematically disadvantaging our fishermen by not allowing them to fish in parts of our exclusive economic zone, while other countries have their own exclusive economic zones, and they're fishing the heck out of those.
So they're totally benefiting.
Now that you're allowing the U.S. fishing fleet to fish, they also serve as observers. And when they see poachers, they report them to the authorities. And so they are a big help to the U.S. Coast Guard.
Right.
And so it's great for our U.S. food security.
It's great.
I mean, we should have a trade surplus in fish, and we have a big trade deficit.
Crazy.
Because of all this. It's just crazy. Nothing
Okay.
familiar.
This is an easy one.
Very easy.
Hi, Mom. This is an easy one. This is crazy, huh?
About 80% of the seafood in the U.S. is imported.
Can you imagine that? We import seafood, and we have the greatest coast and fishing in the world.
Okay, so in Maine, they do something similar. I think it's like 500 miles or something, some crazy thing. And Canada goes and they fish there, other people fish there, Europe fishes there. The Maine lobster. You can't get Maine lobsters because Maine's forced to go for days out to some other area that's not as good. We have to free that up too.
We'll have that on your desk next week, I promise.
The Maine lobster, right?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
You did it last time, and they undid it.
Canada fishes there,
Biden undid
and we're not allowed to. Yeah, I did it last time in Maine, and they undid it. That's why we have to stay president for a long time.
See, he's signaling it. He has to stay president for a long time.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Okay, this is irrelevant, I think. Unless he starts answering questions, Hasan might go. This conversation is super chill. Steiny has no idea that what a documented citizen is because he's talking about something completely different. Trump being bi/zesty is spot on. Damn, dude. Comments are overwhelmingly positive on the Steiny app so far. Let's go. We are going to get to U.S. citizens also being detained by ICE, obviously. But let's get back to the Fed chair warning President Trump's tariffs could drive up prices. Did you already watch some of the Steiny app? No, not yet. I will later.
Unemployment goes up, but prices come down. That's something the Fed knows how to tackle by lowering interest rates. But now the Fed chair says Trump's huge new tariffs could lead to a different economic condition this country hasn't seen in decades.
Why'd you say
there isn't a modern experience of how to think about this.
Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's tone was measured as he warned that President Trump's trade moves could take a rare toll.
The tariffs are larger than forecasters had expected, certainly larger than we expected, even in our upside case.
Powell said the tariffs are likely to drive prices up, while at the same time causing growth to slow and unemployment to rise, a combination of factors known as stagflation.
It's starting to look a little like the old days.
The last time the U.S. saw true stagflation was in the 1970s, when the global price of oil suddenly spiked.
Do these figures mean we're heading for the recession a lot of economists have been predicting, or will this be merely a slowdown?
As Powell spoke in Chicago, U.S. stock markets started to sink. The S&P fell more than 2%. The Nasdaq fell 3%, even as Trump insisted online that America is back thanks to his tariffs.
This is recklessness at another level.
California's governor announced Wednesday his state is suing Trump. Gavin Newsom claims industries there, from tech to agriculture, stand to lose billions from Trump's trade war with China, Canada, and Mexico. In response to the lawsuit, the White House said the trade deficit is a national emergency and vowed to tackle it using every tool, including tariffs and negotiations.
The impact's already on the lack of investment. Any business.
You know what's really funny? Gavin Newsom had a totally scummy take about Abrego Garcia's unlawful, unjustifiable, illegal detention and deportation to El Salvador. He said it's a distraction. And yeah, for a guy like him, it is a distraction because he's losing his goddamn mind because this tariff war is cooking the California economy. But it's such a disgusting thing to say, especially when you're supposed to be the vanguard defending migrants in this country as the governor of the largest recipient of migrants, both undocumented and documented. You're a border state. Your policies have been significantly better than the rest of the country in terms of migrants. And you're over here being like, oh, it's just a distraction that the Trump administration is. It's just a distraction that the Trump administration to talk about the Trump administration undermining the Supreme Court's persuasive capabilities, okay? Creating a constitutional crisis. It's just a distraction. Ridiculous. It's not a distraction. It, in my opinion, is literally worse overall than Trump imploding the global trade, okay? Trump imploding global markets, Trump dropping a nuclear bomb on global trade as we know it is bad, but is reversible. Trump, on the other hand, dropping a nuclear bomb on due process and First Amendment rights and deportations to El Salvador and basically turning that into the normal process is not reversible. As of now, Content Cop, 3.2 million views in one day. Content Nuke, 3.3 million views all time. Yeah, that means that it has more than 3.2 million views in one day because YouTube doesn't show the actual views. I saw that, though, yeah. If it says 3.2, that means it's probably 3.4 at this point. Because YouTube doesn't show the actual view count instantly. Especially when a video's out in the first 24 hours. It takes a while for it to catch up. React to it, please. I did. Kind of sounds like Trump pumping up your view numbers. Wait, what? My view numbers? This is not my video. What chances do you think the Green Party will have breaking through Canada's election this month? I don't know. Lola Hassan needing view pumping? Yeah. Did that change on YouTube? I know it was a thing, but I thought it was only for like the first 4 hours. Yeah, not only did I watch it, come on, bro, it's basically your video, lol. I don't know why you're saying that, because if it was my video, I would have laser focused on just the politics of it all, for the record. As I have covered Ethan Klein's insane extended crash out over the course of the past couple of months, and every single time I did, I hyper-focused either on quickly talking about whatever kind of slanderous statement he was making about me, and then moving on to issues that actually matter, which is issues that pertain to the politics of it all. That's what I care about. That's what I do. This was D's framing, and likely why people are coming in here saying that. His viewers are saying you paid to commission the video. Yeah, definitely. It's good that this to me implies that the haters have reached a new level of copium if they're simply engaging in QAnon-style conspiracies again to suspect that I paid iDubbbz to make this video. The video is about friendship and a bunch of people are just inserting themselves in the conversation. Yeah, for many it's more. It's more than that. For a lot of iDubbbz's former fans, This video is just another moment where iDubbbz is turning into DEI dubs. You know, he's woke now. He's just completely captured. There's an order of priority for right-wing reactionaries online. It's just about who they resent more, right? I'm the number one enemy. Ethan used to be the number one enemy for a lot of them. I have become the number one enemy for many of them, which is why they will lend support to Ethan strategically while still saying he sucks. Okay? And this, for many of iDubbbz's former fans, fallen fans, was a horrible moment because they don't really like Ethan either, but they certainly hate me and, you know, Brogan and Denims and all these other like usual villains of the Keemstar Orbiter drama slop tubers. So it is a collection of some of the worst of the worst parts of the internet coming together to be like, this sucks actually. But I think for a lot of normies, they probably look at this and they're like, oh, XQC watched it and was on Ethan Klein's side. Yeah, that's not even remotely shocking. That's the least shocking thing I've ever heard. Again, XQC's order of priority is fuck Hasan. That's at the tip. That's at the top. So if someone is doing fuck Hasan, he's not going to, like, he'll maybe be a little bit critical, but he'll jump on the fuck Hasan ship. I'm begging you to get back to meaningful news, please. Dude, this is hilarious. Brother, I took a 3-minute sidestep after 2 hours and 3 minutes of nonstop news coverage. And you literally can't even stand for not even a 3-minute, like a 30-second sidestep. It's like, dude, get back to the news right now. Calm down. The sheer code from the cult is kind of fun to watch. Apparently hitting 3 million views in a day is doing poorly. I think that the concept of like content comp and call out videos like this are a remnant of an old internet. That's just the unfortunate reality. I think most people just know how shitty their favorite content creators are and they don't give a shit. And the reality of the matter is, like, even with someone like myself, right? There is an endless sea of misinformation that people have pumped out there that has created this idea that I'm like an arch villain, right? Just a bad person who doesn't care about the issues he speaks on, grifter, yada, yada, yada. And of course, people that want to make up their own minds can come here and you know, look into it on their own. But for many people, even like truly evil content creators that do awful shit, truly awful shit, their audiences don't really care. Like there's nothing that will shake away people's support. Maybe you can like, maybe you can chip away at some of those in the margins, but that's it. I used to be an Asman fan before he fell off the cliff. Yeah, I mean, that happens. There's still people that, again, there's still people that are independent thinkers, people that choose to make up their own minds instead of being manipulated by some of the dumbest people that you've ever encountered, that lay out a convincing argument by rehashing shit that they saw on subreddits, right? Just basically repeating Reddit comments and then slapping that together and being like, well, this is my well-sourced YouTube essay. California, should Newsom run for president? 59% no. I love that. I'm definitely firmly in the 59% camp there. They are perma-stalk calling you terrorist, so that makes people curious. Yeah. Do you think the video will make Ethan rethink some things? I would be shocked. Genuinely shocked. If you listen to the Steiny app, he brings up Ethan, I think, towards the end. And he's like, can there ever be reconciliation? And I basically said, like, he would have to apologize for all of the things that he's done. He'd have to, like, look within. And he literally laughed at that. He was like, that's not going to happen. So, anyway. The entire reason I'm here is because someone hated on you one time, and instead of watching the 5 out of context clips in a Discord, I came here and sat for a stream. Almost a year later, I'm basically here every day. The ironic thing is people who posted those clips probably would agree with a lot of what you would have to say if they actually would just watch you for an hour? I know. Yeah, 100%. That's why I try to uncompromisingly keep doing what I'm doing with the hopes that, with the belief, maybe it's naivete, but the belief that like people will maybe by accident, by choice, maybe will come in here and make up their own minds, even if the well has been poisoned long before they ever encounter my content, without a filter that says this is the worst evil villain of all time. You said, bro, people hate watch you all the time. No, I know that. I'm saying that there's only so much hate watching you can do before you realize, like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, what am I doing? This person I don't think is the evil villain that I think he is. You know? I think there are plenty of people in here that also came in with that motivation and then had their minds changed too.
Person, small or large, uncertainty is the number one enemy. Just give us certainty.
President Trump met with a Japanese trade delegation yesterday. He said they made big progress in their talks. But after Powell's sobering warning, President Trump is firing back. This morning, he posted that Powell should have lowered interest rates a long time ago and that his termination cannot come fast enough. Nate?
Nancy, thank you.
I wanted Trump.
You wanted Trump?
Yep. There was no way in hell I wanted her out there. But now I don't know. What would have been better?
What were you expecting?
I was expecting the lower cost of a lot of just your everyday living things and hoping that he would make things better for everybody in America, because that's what we need. Groceries are already outrageous. And then we put the tariffs on across the seas or whatever, like China, all that. It just makes everything more expensive for everybody.
Jamie Basinger is the only person we met in eastern South Dakota who openly questioned her own political views. Most people we talked to said it was risky to talk about politics here, even as the effects of Trump's tariffs loomed over the agricultural economy in an area that voted for him by about 70%. Generally, opinions were divided between trust Trump's plan and how can you still like this guy. Wait, so Becky, let me ask one thing. Are you in a politically mixed marriage?
Yeah, did you see the Joe Biden sign? Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Becky Hofer was not afraid to talk. She's a Democrat.
No. Chatters are saying you predicted this segment. No, not yet. Not yet. Okay, wait for it. I don't know if it'll happen.
And her husband is a conservative.
Like, I predicted this stuff as well, but there's one thing that I said. There's one thing that I said that I need to see with my own two eyes. I said, yes, that the former vice journalist is going to go to Trump country. They're going to talk about how sad they are. But there's one aspect of this that hasn't been fulfilled yet. Okay.
Non-voter.
What is
She's
this?
a freight broker. Basically, if a company needs to ship bricks, she'll find you a flatbed truck. If you need to ship meat, she'll get you a refrigerated truck.
Ooh, you need the truck tomorrow? Can you guys like fork a pallet jack into the back of the trailer for him to pallet jack him to the front?
This gives her a window into real-time shifts in the economy.
Everybody's nervous. People are making different decisions for different reasons, but you know, some of it's hesitation, some of it's actual price changes. Everybody just wants some stability right now.
And those shifts can be complex. She says China's retaliatory tariffs on American pork and beef could lead to higher prices on fruit.
Right now it's produce season in California. We need to get out to California. What goes out to California? Meat. We haul pork, we haul beef. Where does it go? It goes to Asia. If it doesn't go, the price produce is gonna go up even that much more because they're gonna have to pay more for the trucks.
You know, as we've talked about, you're in a really conservative area, very pro-Trump area. Like, do you feel frustrated in trying to talk to your neighbors about what's going on?
Yeah, you know, it's the biggest thing that frustrates me is that I just feel like nobody cares right now until it affects them. And I don't understand how they don't see that. They're not dumb. These people aren't dumb. And they're not unkind people and selfish people and thoughtless people. So I don't understand why they're okay with it.
Hofer introduced us to her neighbor Rod Olerud, who was feeding cattle and who, for now, is okay with it.
I just think we need to let the president do what he's doing, and we need to just see what's going to happen here and give him a little latitude so that, if it doesn't work, then we're going to have to try something different.
Okay. So you're willing to let the president try some stuff to see?
Yes, to see if this works. Let's give the president a chance, and we'll just have to go from there. Looks like a little boy.
Tommy Baruth thinks we already give it a chance. He's a retired soybean farmer who saw what happened in 2018 when Trump put tariffs on China.
The export market just went right down the tube because these countries could buy them from other places cheaper. Brazil and other countries were the ones that benefited from that.
I read that it stayed that way, that now China buys a lot more from Brazil.
Exactly. And a lot of times those markets don't come back.
Doug Bjerke runs a lawn mowing business. He says Trump's plan will work out in the long term, even if some crop prices.
Oh, shit. I didn't realize. Why? Pure faith. Pure faith placed upon, pure faith placed upon a man who has done nothing to deserve said faith. We are simply wish casting. Okay? It's just cultish thinking. It's hilarious. Like, oh, it's going to work out. Why is it going to work out? I don't know. It'll just work out. I have placed faith on the man, the myth, the legend, my GOAT, the God King Savior, Donald Trump. I wish I could have someone love me like this. Okay? Jesus Christ.
His fault.
Yeah, the price might come down, but when them people start starving, they're going to come back to the table.
You mean in the other countries?
Yeah, we're a gracious nation feeding the world, and we shouldn't have to without getting something for it.
What?
Rick Ekman says in the 3 days after the tariffs, cattle futures dropped below the point of break even for his farm.
Never had him do this before.
Yeah, he really likes you.
No.
Did you vote for Trump?
No. No, I did not.
Why not?
You want me to be truthful? I think to get to where he's at today, he's stepped on people, and he's got no morals, I don't think. I don't like the man. I don't like him.
Hasan is part of the male loneliness epidemic. True.
Do support.
I don't know. I guess I don't see anything good about him.
Does it affect the way you think about America?
It scares me.
Terry Nebelsick, a lifelong Republican and retired school superintendent, was very careful in how he talked about the political climate. He's concerned that Trump's push to dissolve the Department of Education will cut public school funds for needy kids, potentially at a time of economic turmoil.
If poverty...
They're whispering because they're in an area of South Dakota that voted for Trump by roughly 70%. So any kind of dissent against dear leader must be done in a hush-hush manner, okay? You never know. You never know where the prying eyes are. You never know who might overhear this conversation. They're like, oh yeah, I didn't vote for him. I'm so sorry. No, it is okay that he is completely destabilizing the global economy and ruining my livelihood. It is fine. Things will work out, I think.
It's happening to adults. Children are hurting. And where adults sometimes just have to work through it and make sure there's food on the table. During that time, we have children and adolescents who are forming who they're going to be. And I do think that the public school is a collecting point for people to be able to reach those kids and make sure that they're fed and have medical attention and have their basic needs met.
Again and again, our conversations in this Midwestern nice town came back to character and values.
When Sheila and I raised our children, we taught them to be honest, not try to cheat anybody, to respect. Trump doesn't do any of those things.
Do you find a lot of farmers around here agree with you, or are they fans of Trump?
This is a very Republican state. I think it's too soon for them to say they're wrong.
Ellie, I love the conversations that you are able to bring to us and bring to light. Given everything that we just saw, do the Trump supporters that you spoke to, do they regret their vote?
I get that question so much, particularly from people in bluer states, and again they say no.
Right.
They really put a lot of faith in him. One man described him as courageous, and they said people have told me they're willing to take a serious financial hit to their own personal finances in order to let him do his thing, because they really have faith in him that he's the only one willing to do what needs to be done.
To turn it around. I think that's fascinating that they are willing to say, I'm willing to take the hit.
Yeah.
You know, take that pain, but how long? That's that big question now. It's great to see you.
Good to
Thank you.
So, talking about the tariffs, obviously over the last several weeks, we've seen Donald Trump, the president, losing support among voters writ large over the tariffs. His numbers on the economy are going south. He's hemorrhaging support among independents on the economy. But what about Trump voters?
Yeah, get ready for Holy Toledo.
Voters, how do they feel about all this? One man can answer that question. He just happens to be the one man standing beside me right now, CNN Chief Data Analyst Harry Enton. Let's talk about Trump voters and how they feel. Do they regret their vote?
I mean, this is the big question, right? I hear all these stories.
It's funny how liberals constantly sold this lie that their country is noble and selfless, and now it's that exact false marketing that is destroying liberalism because Republicans are too stupid, so they fall for it, and too selfish, so they hate. You sound like a Chinese netizen with how poetic you got there. It's the highest order of praise I can offer any chatter one day.
Stories, all these articles, all the Trump voters, they regret what they did back in 2024. I'm here to tell you, very few of them regret what they did back in 2024. What are we talking about? Trump voters looking back at 2024. We got a new poll out. The poll was conducted this month.
Dude, oh, hell yeah. What a cult. Dude, oh, amazing. What? Doomer TV? All people here already know this is happening. Give us what we need. How you learn from other edutainment creators. Reach us and not try and convince the Nazis. Guess chamber take lies. Be swole. Be who you wish Bernie and other people like you are. Bruh. Bro, are you okay? What the f are you saying?
What percentage would change their vote to a different candidate? We're talking just 2%, just 2%. That's not even a wide spot on the road. And then there's this additional 1% who say they would rather not vote. We're talking overall under 5% might or would have changed their vote.
How do you not look at this and get doomer pilled? I mean, dude, it's cult. It's cult shit. It's a cult, baby. These people, I think, one, due to their anger and resentment towards institutions, and Donald Trump certainly is punishing those institutions, and two, due to a lack of alternative from their assessment, someone like Bernie or the Democratic Party adopting Bernie's messaging and being like a left populist movement in general, literally look at the situation and go, yeah, I got no other options. Who the else am I going to vote for? The woke and gays? And because of that, I think Donald Trump could literally line them up and shoot them one by one, and the remainder would still say, nah, there's some purpose for this. There's some purpose for this. There's a higher purpose here. That's it. This shouldn't make you black-pilled, however. It should not. One, because sometimes these polls are not exactly accurate, and two, people have the capacity to change their minds. You can try to ease that process of mind changing by ensuring that people do not feel resentful or embarrassed or silly. I know we like to have fun looking at, the soybean farmer that's like in tears saying, I voted for you, Mr. President. Please, I'm begging you not to do these terrorists. What are you doing? You're killing my family. Okay. And there is a reason for that. I mean, sometimes we're going to, enjoy the ride a little bit because we're getting over in this process too. Might as well enjoy the show for the brief moments. But ultimately, when you're addressing people in the real world, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be annoying, smarmy, elitist. You should do everything in your power to be open-minded and understanding, demonstrate empathy, and recognize that everyone has the capacity to change. But more importantly than these guys who are voting for Donald Trump and haven't changed their minds yet, there are plenty of people who are inactive that you can organize. There are plenty of people who did not vote that you can get on board. So it's not just the Trump voters that you can change the minds of, even though plenty of them can have their minds changed. The reason why they haven't had their minds changed is not just because of their cult-like thinking, but because there is no alternative that they see as an earnest counterbalance to all of the madness and mania of the Trump regime.
Vote Donald Trump voters back in 2024. And then you ask, okay, the same question to Kamala Harris voters, and it turns out the numbers are rather similar. So if there was a repeat, if folks got to be able to redo their vote that they had back in 2024, would the result be any different? I doubt it would be. I doubt it would be, or it would still be extremely close. The bottom line is, for all this talk of Trump voters regretting their vote, in the numbers, it really just doesn't show up, John.
So the stickiness with Trump voters and President Trump in this presidency, how does it compare to his first presidency?
Yeah, okay. So, I was interested in sort of a historical analogy here, sort of, does this look similar or different from back in 2017, looking at 2016? Well,
the reason why the felt bad about my voters in 2017 was a higher percentage. Well, despite the fact that demonstrably he did less bad shit in that short period of time, for the record, is because a lot of new people were voting for him, assuming that he was an outsider, that was more moderate than the way that the media had presented him. Okay? That's a big part of the reason. It wasn't because of the impact of his policies, but more so that he was new. Like, people voted for him. You're laughing when I say moderate, but yes, I think you forget how people perceive Hillary Rodham Clinton, okay, for a lot of good reason and also even insane ones. You literally are talking about a group of voters that range from saying she is a pedophilic vampire to people that directly see her as the human manifestation of like all of the out of touch elitist technocratic approaches that have ruined the economy for a lot of people in the Rust Belt. And for others, the person who did Benghazi, which was such a big deal, the Benghazi and the butter emails. Both of those things are true. No, she's not a vampire. Pedophilic, yes. Vampire, no. Anyway, that's besides the point. Vampires are not real. That's what I meant. So my point is, Trump was seen as an outsider who was uncorruptible, an uncorruptible force that tells you how it is. That's how people saw it in 2016. And then very quickly, the media immediately started tackling this issue, saying, this is not us. This is not who we are as America. 2024, this is who we are as America. It's even more shocking that after 4 years of Trump and January 6th, Americans were like, nah, I'm still going to go with this guy who's going to take a chainsaw to the administrative state. Because the government, the institutions, the Democratic Party, I want to nuke it all. That's part of the reason why this time around, there's less people that are like, yeah, I don't know about my vote.
Well, in February of 2017, 4% of Trump voters say they'd shift their vote. That's actually slightly more than the 3% this time around. So, you look back, you say, okay, there's these Trump voters who really regret their vote. Historically speaking, they really don't regret their vote. And if anything, the number this time around is actually smaller than it was the first time around. And it's certainly...
I still don't get it. Sorry. It's because people know who Trump is. This is not a surprise at this point for people. That's why it's an even smaller percentage. It's also obviously not shocking that people refuse to reckon with their mistakes, and they would rather delude themselves. They would rather delude themselves than thinking, no, I still made the right choice. Things will work out.
Smaller than the number we saw coming out of 2020, of course, after the events of January 6th. So the bottom line is this. If there's some idea out there that Trump voters are going around, man, I wish I had voted for Kamala Harris instead of Donald Trump, the numbers say that is a fanciful universe. It really, for the most part, does not exist.
What about the Republican brand in general? Any evidence that people are, leaving that brand faster than they're leaving the Democrats?
Yeah, exactly. Yesterday we spoke about Trump's approval rating, right? But it's very important to note, nothing cannot be nothing. That is, when you put two folks together or two folks against each other, the results might look different than just looking at one of them. And on this particular measure, which I think is so important, because what we saw in 2024 was Republicans getting a rare lead on party identification It was a 1-point lead according to Gallup. Look at where it was in an average of Gallup polls so far this year, plus 2 points for Republicans. If anything, the Republican brand has actually perhaps gotten a smidgen stronger, though these are within the margin of error. Very different from 2017 when Democrats held a 5-point advantage. And I'll finally note, this looks very much like the generic ballot trend, which in 2025 looks an awful bit like November of 2024, when Republicans, of course, won and held the House.
Long way to say that the Democratic Party's incompetence and overall horrifying approval ratings is creating a situation where Trump continues to destroy the economy. Trump continues to destroy due process, rip apart the fucking Constitution. And yet people still go, best we got. When you say trans issue, I bet that right there is the greatest demonstration of what I'm talking about. Okay? The very fact that we still spend any time talking about trans people, which are such a tiny sliver percentage of the population, when all of the things that I just mentioned in terms of global markets on fire, American dollar dominance possibly on its way out. Okay? Not immediately, but, accelerating the process. American empire dying. The mass layoffs at the federal level. The undermining of the regulatory agencies, undermining of the Constitution, undermining of due process, black bagging random people in the middle of the street, and then openly admitting that you made a mistake and then refusing to listen to a unanimous Supreme Court decision to return this person. Like, all of that is insane. And yet people still want to talk about trans people. Do you understand? Do you understand how insane that is? The fact that people can't recognize this as a distraction is so sad. And the only reason why people can't recognize this as a distraction is because there is no definable trait of the Democratic Party. The counterbalance against rising fascism in this country is nothing. It's just a bunch of platitudes at best. It's defined perfectly by Cory Booker's 24-hour filibuster that was not even filibustering against a bill. You understand? That's how the Democratic Party is defining itself as in this unique moment. Not with Senator Van Hollen's actions, not with Bernie Sanders and AOC doing the fighting oligarchy tour, even though that in and of itself is also not enough either. So for a lot of these people, it's just there's nothing. There's no definable characteristic of the party that is supposed to be not the Republican Party. So what are people supposed to expect here? Like, I know that this is a lot of animosity, a lot of dumb people, a lot of reactionary tendencies as well. But like, if that is already existing, you have to combat it. You have to work. You have to actively undermine these reactionary tendencies. You have to build a base of support. You have to be a counterbalance. It takes years to change the trajectory. It takes years to change people's attitudes about these sorts of things. And the Democrats have done nothing. They've done nothing. And now, uneducated Vodfrog, what made you say Bernie should push support for Hamas in Congress in a recent stream? Genuine question. I understand that they are resistant groups against Israel's occupation, but they haven't also been authoritarian and aggressive towards the Gaza population. Is that just propaganda? Or are you saying that since Israel's the occupier bombing children and the focus should be on them instead of Hamas? Well, that's the second thing that you already arrived at. Yes. You asked the question, and I think you asked a question in because you were genuinely interested in hearing my perspective, and then you figured it out immediately. I didn't say Bernie Sanders should push support for Hamas. I said that Bernie Sanders, if he wanted to, could stop a bill like this from getting unanimous consent, but it would be it would be a political cost that he would have to bear here, but he could use that as an opportunity to change the discourse surrounding who the real villains are in this story. And the real villains of the story is not Hamas. No matter how hard American media, every organization, every institution, the entire political class universally says it is Hamas. It is Hamas. Hamas are terrorists. It is Israel. They hold all the cards. They hold all the power. The problem ultimately is that Bernie Sanders doesn't think Israel is the villain in the story, or at least Israel is a villain, but not the major villain in the story. And that's wrong. Israel is the major villain in the story, is the primary villain. And the primary responsibility lies on Israel. Hasan Reactions, one of the best ones in the React channel.